to another episode of the Healthy with Heartland podcast. I am your host, Justin Freishtat, here with our creative directors, your favorite co-hosts, Simon and Shannon. We also have Heartland's own Zach Hirsh here, very special guest. Before we get to Zach, we have some announcements, and today, just so you know, not only is there going to be a giveaway as scheduled, normally, always, that's right, we're going to do some trivia as well.
Woo! Trivia.
We're all excited for that.
Trivia.
Take us away with announcements.
All right. Welcome back, Heartland family. As you all know, make sure you're following us on Facebook so you can see the podcast. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Heartland Home Foods, as well as our Instagram for all of our awesome food photos. If you're a Heartland customer, we have an amazing reorder special for you so you can restock at home without the hassle. Check out our special for the month of February. It's 2 packs of bacon, your choice, with your reorder for free. And while supplies last, you can get a raspberry and vanilla petite cheesecake for 2 that you could share with someone special for Valentine's Day. So make sure you check that out. As well, we're going to do some giveaways next week, so stay tuned for that. You can enter and win on our Instagram and Facebook page. Tagging along with Valentine's Day, we're going to have an event coming up with Barreau Vineyards on February 13th, so make sure to reserve your surf and turf sample and check us out for our photo booth. And then transitioning from that, you can check that out on Kat and Lindsay's Facebook page, as well as the pop-up events we've been doing. So we have some awesome s'mores, arts and crafts. It's a great way to invite your friends, family, neighbors to be introduced to Heartland. So check us out on the Kat and Lindsay page if you'd like to be involved with that as well. And with that, I think we have an awesome podcast planned for you today. So back over to Justin so we can get started.
All right, so I got to give Mr. Hirsh here the proper intro. 5 years senior wellness consultant at Heartland Foods, holds multiple records in sales. Fastest to $1 million, fastest to $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, and fastest to $6 million. So that's a lot of food.
It is. That's a lot of families help too.
Yes. So today, Zach's going to give you some amazing knowledge when it comes to fasting, bone broth. We're going to talk about some topics. You're going to love it. So Zach, introduce us to fasting and just kind of why that world's important.
Nice. So I think fasting's become kind of hip lately, and a lot of where we talk about things like metabolic health, a lot of diabetes, insulin sensitivity, things like that. And there's a lot of different types of fasting, and I guess I'd like to start off by just saying, as human beings, we're not grazing animals, right? We aren't designed to just, like cattle, sit in the field all day, eat throughout the day, right? You go back ancestral-wise, we were hunter-gatherers. It was feast and famine. It was, hey, take a woolly mammoth down, eat for, a week, 2 weeks, boom, and then you might go a week or two without food.
Right.
So I think our bodies have evolved into needing to eat a little bit less frequently than people think, right?
Right.
The whole thing about eat 6 small meals a day, there really wasn't a lot of science behind most of that. It was essentially a hypothesis that said, hey, if we keep your metabolism running all day, you're going to burn more calories, essentially.
Right.
So when you come into different types of fasting, and I think a lot of people have heard intermittent fasting is probably the most popular. Yeah. What people really hear about the most. But then you have things like your alternate day fasting. You're moving into like extended fasts, 3-day, 7-day. There's a lot of clinics now that are doing even longer fast than that. I'm talking, 2 weeks, 30 days, and really it's correcting a lot of people's issues from metabolic health to things like diabetes, cancer, and really just kind of activating things, different pathways in the body through not eating. I mean, it's almost that simple, right?
Yeah, that's incredible, right? So I think what deters people from doing things is they don't understand why. So what's the why behind it? Why does it work? What are the benefits?
Right.
I think that, you kind of look at it on a timeline, right? So essentially you stop eating, and as you continue not eating, right, 6 hours in, 8 hours in, 10 hours, 12 hours, different things are happening in the body, right? So the human growth hormone levels, about 8-10 hours in, they're going to increase. Around 16-hour mark, that's where you see more fat burning, right? You're burning up the glycogen stores in the body, and then you start tapping into your body's own fat. And that's one of the things that people look at fasting in terms of weight loss, is being able to tap more into their own fat stores and use that as energy, as opposed to eating so much glycogen. Now, with the standard American diet, right, people eating junk and eating so much, we essentially are living on insulin spikes, right? And a lot of the ways you look at people like Rhonda Patrick, Jason Fung, Peter Attia that are really into the fasting, done a lot of work in fasting, they look at it more in terms of longevity, right? Extending the life and using fasting as a tool. So when you look at it more of like longer term fasts, you start getting into what's called autophagy, which is basically the recycling of cells in the body. So, you have some cells that are not performing right, and basically what the body's going to do once that 24 to 30 hour mark hits is the healthy cells are really just going to come in and kind of boom, recycle, and essentially eat those unhealthy cells as food. So it really just reprograms the body. And when you look at a fast of about 36 hours, 72 hours, you've essentially reset the immune system.
Wow.
And so that's more in the treatment of certain things, cancers, bringing insulin down, diabetes, things like that, where fasting really is just a tool. And personally, I think it's one of the things it's free, right? All you got to do is not eat. It's one of the things you can actually do. I think that's one of the biggest benefits to your health that is totally free.
Yeah.
Right? You just don't eat. And use it as a tool.
Right. Zach, what's the longest fast you've ever done?
7 days.
7 days.
Oh my gosh. I was going to put a picture up of a 24-hour fast, but that doesn't even do it justice. What was that like for you? I mean, mentally.
I mean, once you get it depends. I think it depends how you go into it.
Okay.
It's when I did that, I was more eating keto, and so my body was kind of used to already burning ketones as fuel. So it was easier going into it. Just like when we did the 3-day fast here at the office, and everyone kind of joined in. It was pretty cool. But once you
needs company.
Right, exactly. But really, once you hit that, I think that 2 to 3 day mark is kind of getting over the hump. And then that 3 to 5 is definitely pretty easy. And then it's more, the last 2 were like more of a mental game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So when you did the 7-day fast, did you take showers? Like, what was that like? Did you do a total fast? Like, was there no water involved? Was there a little bit of water involved? Like, what was that like?
So now what you're bringing in is what's called a dry fast, right?
Yeah.
So you have water fast and then you have dry fast, right? So a dry fast is essentially, right, like we were saying, where you wouldn't drink water, you wouldn't take a shower, because through our skin, there you go, through our skin, that's our biggest organ, right? So you go in the shower, you get some sort of hydration going on, right? But no, I mean, dry fasts aren't recommended for the hardcore extended time. So I did a dry fast the first 24 hours, and then it was water. I drank coffee, but
Nice.
yeah.
I always see people like about the fasting, and you think of a dry fast. I think that's like, it's crazy, because you think about like you could drink water, and we fasted like before. We've done a 24-hour
Right.
fast, but do you drink water, and some people like you drink coffee or something like that, and that for me, I get hangry. Those Snickers commercials with I think it's Betty White or somebody.
Right.
That's me, 100%. Like, I'm that person. Like, if I get hungry, my attitude changes. I'm like, like we'll get into like an argument over nothing. Like, like there's something on the ground and you just get upset because you're just like, oh, I'm so hungry. And for me, how do you deal with those? Like, do you get hangry?
Well, yeah, I mean, and really what that is when a lot of people are getting hangry, right?
Yeah.
It's the body actually saying, like, you aren't actually necessarily hungry, right? So people always say, like, if you're super hungry, drink water. But it's your body the glycogen stores in your body are reducing, and your body's saying, oh my God, where's my fuel source? Because traditionally, the way most people are eating, the body's used to running on glycogen, right? On sugars, carbohydrates, things like that. And so that's really where the shift is when you're fasting, is from your body running on glycogen stores most primarily to running on the next fuel source, which would be fats, or would be ketones. It's and then using the body's own fat and turning that into ketones. But I mean, yeah, it's you definitely do get hangry. For me, it's more the headaches. Like when I get to that day, like 2 to 3, like it's the headaches.
Yeah.
And I think part of it might be the coffee, like because I'll reduce my coffee intake, and see, I got my coffee here. Like I'm a 2 to 3 cup a day guy, So
Yeah.
It's,
And what about water? How important is it to be drinking water when you're fasting?
It's super important. And one thing, and I do this not only when I'm fasting, but a lot of the time, I'll add Celtic sea salt, Redmond real salt to my water, because what you're going to be losing is a lot of those electrolytes, like the potassium, magnesium. So keeping those up in the body as well.
That makes sense.
Right. And I think people hear fasting and they think, oh my God, I couldn't eat for a day. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Typical person could probably go a month without eating and be fine.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to starve to death. You know what I mean? And you're even someone who does starve to death still has glycogen stores in their body at the end. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
So but most people, it's just a mental thing, I think. And people see it as, oh my God, like I couldn't go a day without eating.
Right.
Fasting's been around for thousands of years. I mean, religion, being Jewish, Yom Kippur, we fast for 24 hours. And, it's been used in religions and cultures for, again, thousands of years. And
Right.
You think people fail with not just fasting, but diets in general? They fail before they start because they know how they start to feel when they get malnourished. And like, well, that happens to me by 10 a.m. every day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the same thing when you eat a healthy diet. Once you get out of bad food for, I'd say, you go through that sugar detox, whatever it is,
Yeah.
7-8 days, then it's actually hard to eat what
To
you
go
need
back.
to eat in healthy food. And all that stuff goes away.
Right.
I think we were talking about that last week with Dr. Bernardo when he was saying I guess it takes like 2 weeks for you to like really get that like mental neural pathway change in your mind, and then after that it's pretty much like you've already developed that new pattern. It's not as tough. It's really those first like couple days. I feel like that's the same thing with fasting.
Yeah.
And too, like people have a lot of habits of like picking up food or like snacking, and they may not even think that they're doing it throughout the day, and they are, and that can be something that can you start realizing that when you get into fasting.
And that's the whole grazing aspect, right? Typical, people, you get up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, you have breakfast, maybe have a snack before lunch, eat lunch, have something before dinner, eat dinner, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whatnot, eat something before you go to bed, right? You've just eaten in a 15 to 17 hour window.
Exactly.
And most people don't actually, don't understand that or don't realize what they're, that they're essentially eating all day long.
Is there a component to this? What I've heard is when you fast, you give your organs a break. Is that kind of, whereas if you're always eating, you're always keeping your digestion moving, and it's actually fatiguing your systems? Is there any truth to that?
I mean, I wouldn't see why there wouldn't be.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, your digestive system, I think, is like just one of them. But I mean, yeah, like you're basically giving your body a chance to reset, I think. And I know you mentioned it's connected to your immune system. It's connected to like a few different things. So I think that, it's giving your body an opportunity to clear itself out and start over from scratch.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and don't they say too, the whole fasting thing, like you were saying with the weaker cells, precancerous, if you do a 3-day fast once a quarter, you can actually kill those cells off because the healthy cells are going to overtake them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it boosts some of the others, like the NK2 cells. So when I first got into fasting, it was really through Rhonda Patrick's work, and that kind of led me more into like one of her mentors was Sachin Panda, and then Walter Longo, who's out of USC. And if anyone's ever heard of the fasting mimicking diet, that's kind of his, what he kind of developed there.
What is that?
So it's essentially a way to trick your body into it's a 5-day fast, but you do consume, I think it's like, it ends up being, 500-600 calories a day, but it kind of tricks your body into thinking that you're fasting, right? And a lot of his work that he's done has been with looking at cancer patients and what do you call it? Chemotherapy, right?
Yep.
So he basically took he took a study with rats, and then it was proven in humans as well. People who fasted for 24, 48, 72 hours prior to chemo treatments had way less symptoms, because of the chemo and because you're upregulating a lot of your natural killer cells. The chemo ends up being more effective, and he's shown that in rats, and has studies with humans as well. And it's pretty crazy, like what not eating can do for you.
Right.
It's
That's wild.
It just makes so much sense from an evolutionary perspective, right?
Yeah.
The same thing with like the whole endless summer concept. You're not supposed to eat sugar all year. You're only supposed to have it in the summer.
Yep.
All these different things that now we have 24 access to put whatever we want into our bodies. We survived millions of years as humans without that type of process. So it's just no surprise that we're just kind of destroying ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's like what you alluded to, Justin, was that, most people, it's really just hard getting started. So I'd like the anybody that's watching to actually comment below. And if you have fasted, let us know what your longest fast was and some of your, adversities and experiences are with it. Because I think that's probably one of the hardest things is actually just getting started. So what kind of got you into fasting?
I mean, I think, people like Rhonda Patrick, Jason Fung, like just seeing their work and it's how it just kind of made sense. It's as I always say, if everyone took all the junk they people eat and just condensed it into an 8 to 10 hour window, like your health would change.
Right.
And then, then you bring in the components of eating better quality food, Heartland Home Foods, and
shameless plug,
and kind of just, bringing everything together to that ultimate healthy lifestyle. And again, it's one of the things you can do. I think it's free and has some of the biggest benefits for you.
Nice.
I think, at least in my experience with trying fasting, if I didn't have a really regimented, healthy diet for a week going into it, it was a lot harder.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot harder to get through that shock.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you kind of get your system healthy first, out of sugar detox, it'll probably be an easier transition to get through a 3-day fast. That's the most I've ever attempted.
Yeah.
3 days.
And it is, and that's kind of what we're talking about, like going into the fast, right? It's if you, let's say you're planning a 3-day fast, right? If you diminish your carbohydrates, especially your sugar intake going prior to that, it's going to be so much easier because you're not going to be hangry and your body's not going to be starving for so much glycogen that it's used to.
Wow. Yeah. That's great advice.
And I think you touched on it too, Justin, because you were talking about how it affects your organs. But like it says that it promotes better health by fighting inflammation in the body. So I believe, you get inflammation from eating certain things, from doing certain exercises, whatever it may be. You can get inflammation for many different reasons. But doing fasting in whatever sense, fasting or intermittent fasting can help reduce inflammation, which we know overall is a good thing. So
when you talk about inflammation, Zach, do you kind of want to go into what inflammation is?
Yeah, I mean, inflammation's essentially the body's response to injury, right? And I think with what people eat, eating a lot of sugar is essentially going to be causing just chronic inflammation. And that's the problem is people are chronically inflamed. Like, hey, you get a cut, something happens, cool, inflammation. It's the body's way of fighting off, fighting off trauma, essentially. But it's when people are chronically inflamed, and they've basically, attributed inflammation to 80% of diseases out there, from heart disease, cancers, diabetes. I mean, it's the catalyst to essentially everything. I mean, it really is.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So before we shift topics to bone broth, because I'm personally intrigued with this one, because I'm now on a bone broth journey.
Nice.
Anything else we want to cover on fasting?
No, it just says, I have an article here that just talks about how you can get started. And I know Simon mentioned that if you have tried fasting in the past, make sure you comment below and let us know your experience with that. But water fasting, drink a lot of water. If you are going to try out fasting, you could try juice fasts. I've never personally participated in that, but I guess that's an option. Intermittent fasting, which is partially or completely restricting your intake for part of the day. So just, research these topics. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can check out and try it for yourselves. We'd encourage you to give it a try.
Yep.
And that's the
Kathy
biggest
Ward
thing.
commented real quick. She loves the 16-8 schedule, which is
Yep.
the most common,
Right.
intermittent fasting if you want to just make it a lifestyle.
Right.
And it's basically eating within an 8-hour window, not eating within a 16-hour window.
Yep.
There's a great app out there called Zero, and it's Peter Attia. I mentioned him earlier. He's their clinical director, and it's a cool app because it's kind of, you can see like other people that are fasting. You can set your times, whether you want to do a 16-8, a 3-day fast, a 5-day fast, whatever. But you can kind of see on the app who else is fasting. People can comment in and out and whatnot. But it's really like a clock, right? You can be like, all right, boom, time to eat now. The window's open, right? It just makes it easier.
Do we have any advice for anybody that like has to take food with medicine that would try to fast? Because that's a tough one, right? Because you think like
Some medicines require you to eat.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm just like, I don't know if that there is a way, because
and everyone's different. You know what I mean? And I think if you can schedule it within a window, let's say that 8-hour window, right? You know, if you have to take your medicine, medicine with food in the morning, well, start your window earlier that day. You know, I feel like it might be unlikely that someone's, 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. need food with medicine then. But hey, if it is, maybe it's not going to work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Kathy mentioned the Zero app.
Yeah.
I think that was huge for us as well, was using that Zero app. Just because you're able to track it, it makes it a lot easier. That was probably a really big tool. So the Zero app, definitely. Kathy, thanks for sharing that. Oh,
Awesome.
And then Elena actually just kind of mentioned, she said she switched her medication schedule. So maybe that's a solution to if you're taking medicine and you need to take food with
Right.
it. Just switch the schedule. Try to schedule it so that, maybe your first meal is, because I know a lot of people are used to just eating right when they wake up, like, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever, in the morning. Maybe you shift that to where your first meal is lunch. And then one thing I'd like to mention as well with fasting is it's very important. The first thing that you're eating is huge as well. So if you go on and fast and then you have some sort of like processed meal behind it, it's actually, I believe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first thing that you're eating is what your cells are then going to use to, like create new cells.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, and I feel like your cells would be most open to, really taking in the first thing that you eat.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be begging for it, right? So
Right.
give them something good.
Awesome.
All right, let's shift over to bone broth. So I know you've done a lot of research on this. You know a lot about bone broth. So just on the surface, what are the benefits? Why should we even start ingesting bone broth?
I would say the biggest benefit is the collagen and connective tissue that's you're getting from bone broth, right? Amino acids, things, your essential amino acids are in there. Also, too, article I was reading the other day, really one of the biggest amino acids you get is L-theanine from bone broth, and that comes from the connective tissue and the marrow that's in the bones. And really what that's going to do is help, especially if you're eating a higher protein diet, you're actually going to be able to uptake a lot more of the amino acids and really the nutrient density of the food that you're eating in the muscle meat by just consuming bone broth there as well. And there's a lot of cool ways to make it. I use different types of bones, from beef to lamb, oxtail I throw in there. Animals have so much connective tissue that you don't get necessarily just from eating muscle meat.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's a whole category of nutrition there that you're missing.
Right.
Kind of goes on that concept of like nose to tail, right? Use the whole animal. Whether you're eating organ meats, using the bones to make bone broth. And it's pretty easy to make at home. I do it in the pressure cooker. I'll throw it on there 1.5 to 2 hours, and boom, there you go. And I put it in mason jars, put it in the fridge, and
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can save
we
it and
go.
use it for a while. I
Yeah.
mean, I have just a short recipe here. It's not even really a recipe. Homemade bone broth. Try the following recipe: 1 gallon of water, 1 ounce of vinegar, 3 to 4 pounds of bones and connective tissue. And you can buy the bones like frozen.
Yeah.
You can use frozen bones. You can use bones of something that you just made and cooked.
Yep.
Then that way you're not, wasting that stuff as well.
Pro tip, roast off the bones about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. It kind of opens them up and adds some additional flavor to your bone broth.
Nice.
So obviously, ideally, you want to make it yourself, right?
Yep.
I'm not there yet. I just started with like the Kettle Fire brand.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah,
So
good brand.
do you
That's
know?
quality stuff, though. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
it is.
So I guess that was gonna be my next question. Is there a difference between a high quality brand that makes it for you versus making it yourself?
It's kind of like just how we talk about food. It's what they start with, right? So they use grass-fed beef bones, organic. They're putting onions, celery, things like that, and it's just a better quality that they're starting with than like your your regular broth that you find that's off-brand. You just don't know what they're using to make the what types of bones they're using from animals that have been eating grass-fed animals. They're more nutrient dense, right? So all of that collagen and connective tissue naturally is going to have way more nutrients to it.
You know what's one crazy thing I did not know about bone broth, but it said that it could help aid in sleep. Did you guys know that?
Interesting.
I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I should try drinking it before I go to bed. Like some people drink tea
Right.
before they go to bed.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's funny because that's kind of what I've been doing. The coffees like we were talking about. I mean,
Right.
we're habitual coffee drinkers, so I've been trying to take a couple of those cups of coffee and just make them bone broth, which it's no consequence. It's nothing but protein in it, right? I mean, as far as the macros.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I would
yeah.
imagine it's protein, but I think it's more the nutrients, the micronutrients that you're getting from it. as opposed to the macros like your protein.
Yeah, I guess what I meant was like it's inconsequential to your daily intake, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I keep drinking coffee with creamer and sugar, it's stacking on calories fast.
Right.
And Justin, can you remind me, what was the brand name you said again?
We've been getting Kettle Fire.
Kettle Fire, yeah. I remember them. I just forgot the name.
And look, I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's like
that's what I was going to
more
say.
than a
You said that's
Starbucks
why you
coffee.
said make it
Right,
yourself.
right.
So
yeah, definitely, it's less expensive to make it yourself. 100%.
Yeah. But if the benefits are there,
Correct.
health
Just
is
start.
wealth. I'd rather spend money on that any day of the week than
Yeah.
Right.
And just try it out. It seems kind of like, oh, wow. I mean, like, you're not just going to sit there and drink a cup of chicken stock. But, I mean, it's really delicious. You'd be surprised as well.
Right.
Any evidence in the difference if you're doing bone broth from chicken bones, beef bones, different types of animals? Should you switch it up? Like,
Good question.
Interesting.
So I guess I look at it as I think ruminants, right? Cattle are naturally have more nutrient density than like chickens. So yeah, I kind of throw in. So what I look for when I make it, and it's part of why I throw in some like chicken feet sometimes, is you're looking for that what the strong sisters on YouTube call wiggly jiggly bone broth. So when it settles and I put it in the fridge afterwards, then you kind of skim off the top layer of fat. You kind of want that jiggly bone broth, and you know that hey, you've got a lot of collagen in there, a lot of connective tissue that's really going to benefit. And back to inflammation, totally helps reduce inflammation in the body as well.
Yes,
Wonderful.
Definitely. I mean, it says bone marrow is one of the richest in nutrients. So iron, vitamin A and K, fatty acids, selenium, zinc, manganese, and collagen, of course.
Wow. And then if you do make it yourself, how long is it good for? Do you think in the refrigerator? So if like you make it on Sunday, that's Liz is asking, so I'm just trying to get her.
I've kept mine in the fridge for up to a week or two.
Okay.
And definitely I don't
If it
have any
lasts that
qualms
long.
about. Right, exactly. Yeah, I typically do like a pressure cooker, pot at a time that fills 6 mason jars, and that'll last a week, 2 weeks.
Right. Awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah, and one thing we always talk about is how important gut health is, and I think bone broth goes right along with that. It's super important. It helps you heal the gut. It can help, put good nutrients into the gut. So it's definitely something you guys should give a try.
it's been helping me curb the hunger too. Kind of like coffee does that, caffeine. But I mean, if I can put something with nutrient density that literally has barely any calories.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to fasting, after like when I would do a 3-day, a 5-day fast, bone broth would be basically the first thing that I would eat, after the fast there, because you kind of or slowly need to wake up your body, after it's you can't just boom have a giant meal after not eating for 3 days. Like you're gonna get bloated, feel sick. You got to kind of slowly build that up, and I think bone broth is definitely a great way to come back from that fast and really rehydrate your body with great nutrients.
And you bring up a good point too, because after the fast, you're always like your stomach shrinks, right?
Right.
Like you can't eat. Like you want to eat everything, but then like we would eat with our eyes after we fast, right? Like we would have like eggs and we'd have all these things, and then we'd realize, oh, I can't eat this whole thing because your stomach shrinks.
You get full
so much
easily.
faster.
Yeah.
It's like that, just eating healthy in general.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally, after a week of eating nothing but quality meats, vegetables, rice, just nutrient dense food, it's like you literally like it's hard to explain if you've never done it consistently. I mean, no cheat meals at all.
Yep.
Week or more. It's literally going to go away. You're going to have to be like, oh, do I really want to eat?
Yep.
It all goes away.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because then, what I mean, if you're not hungry and you don't eat, that's part of, when we were talking with Dr. Keith about, your relationship, or even Todd and Stephanie from the Miller Method, they were saying your relationship with food, right? So you can change your relationship with food just by fasting, because you shrink your stomach, then you realize I'm not eating as much, then you can change your portion sizes.
Or you realize I didn't have to eat even though I felt hungry at the time.
Right.
You just learn a lot from it. And like we said, it's very mental, so it's, you're strengthening that mental toughness as well.
Just look for replacements. I mean, if you're one of those people that does several coffees a day with creamer, high fat, high sugar, like that kind of stuff, this is an easy way to just transition out of that, because the bone broth tastes really good.
Right.
And you don't have to add creamer and sugar to make it taste good.
Right.
So that one little habit switch keeps the habit of the habitual, I need to have warm cup of this on cold days
Right.
with no consequence. So
Right.
try to do replacement. The only way that I've found that I can change habits is through that replacement method.
Right.
Got to take one, replace it with something positive.
Right.
Try it out.
Topic for another day, though. We should possibly talk about the type of coffee and where you get your coffee. That kind of thing as well. Not for now, because I know that's a total left field.
Left field.
But I just thought of that. I was like, hey, that might be a good...
Yeah. And if
topic.
there's something vibrant.
Somebody's getting called.
Yep.
Anyway.
And if there's topics you want to hear about, post them in the comments.
Yes, please. And make sure that if you are watching this podcast, you go ahead and share it right now and tag a friend so you could be entered to win at the end of this episode in just a few minutes. So I think now might be a good time for us to transition to trivia. This is going to be a
Let's
fun
do
one,
it.
guys. We're going to do some rapid fire trivia. Justin and Zach do not know the questions we're going to ask
So
them.
we're going to be
You're
doing
going to
the trivia.
Yes.
Oh.
All right, Justin, you're first.
And I,
So you're
I think
gonna-
it's worth
Put me on
noting
the
before, they had no idea that this was going on. That's
No.
why this is going to be
They
so
are
fun.
they are wild carding us hard right
They
now.
gonna
have
be
no
wonderful.
idea.
Dropping it out.
All right, so answer as quickly as you can.
Okay,
Justin,
here
are
we
you
go.
ready?
I'm ready.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Ooh. Monday.
Favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
Ooh. Hanalei.
Yeah,
You almost got
good
cut
one.
off
I
on
like
that. Nickname your parents used to call you.
Sparky.
Last song you downloaded.
Bradley podcast.
Would you rather be able to speak in every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Talk to animals.
Yeah, right.
Favorite holiday?
4th of July.
How long does it take for you to get ready in the morning?
7 minutes, 33 seconds.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
15.
Nice.
Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is.
No comment.
At what age do you want to retire?
I want functional retirement yesterday.
Invisibility or super strength?
Ooh, invisibility.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
Yes, inflammation.
Ding, you have a winner. Great job, Justin. You
Very
got through the
nice.
first trivia. All right, Zach, I hope you're not getting too comfortable because you're next.
No, let's see.
All right, ready? Cake or pie?
Pie.
Godfather or Star Wars?
Godfather.
Ribeye or filet?
Ribeye.
Do you like the word dapper?
Yes.
Big dogs or small dogs?
Big dogs.
How many hours of sleep do you need each night?
6.
What are you having for dinner?
Ribeye.
Say good day, mate, in an Australian accent.
Good day, mate.
Are reindeers real creatures?
Yes.
Your favorite carb, bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes?
Rice.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how hot do you like your shower?
Got to take cold showers. 1.
Would you want to live forever?
That's a tough one. No.
Right.
Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Nice. We have a winner.
That was fun.
That was fun. We're going to continue to do more fun trivia games like that as we meet with you guys on Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned. I think now we are
Is it
ready
giveaway time?
to
It's
pick
giveaway
a
time.
winner.
Let's do it.
So here's what we're giving away today.
Yes. Justin, tell them.
1,400 slow cooker recipes. Let me know if you can finish all 1,400. We'll call it the 1,400 hard, like the 75 day.
Yep. Fix it and forget it cookbook.
Nice.
Plus this Heartland bag.
And an
to keep your
awesome
cookbook.
Heartland Foods tote.
Wonderful.
So,
Nice.
And the winner is, this is really funny.
no way.
This is really funny.
The winner is Lori Slattery. That happens to be my mom. Thanks for tuning in. You're our lucky winner.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah, so you'll be winning a cookbook and a Heartland tote. So with that, I think we had an awesome episode today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the topic of fasting, and we got a little bit into bone broth. We'd love to hear any other topics you guys would like to cover as the weeks go on. And with that, Justin, I think you can send us away.
Sounds good. So if you're not already following Zach Hirsh on Facebook and Instagram, do it. Lots of good content there for you. And, of course, the Heartland page. And we'll be doing this again next Thursday. And as always, stay healthy with Heartland.
Stay healthy.